It's a mini MFB. Woo! Welcome to my favorite perch, the podcast where we share honest tales about the good, the bad, and the oh my friggin' god ugly of raising dogs and other pets. I'm going to share a tale today in this mini MFB episode about a little event that took place with my walk with Moxie this morning. And maybe you, like me, will learn from this little lesson. So Moxie and I walk every morning we're usually on the road by around 6 o'clock. And right now it's dark at 6 o'clock. The sun doesn't start coming up for another half an hour or so. So I've got the headlamp on. We're walking. We've got a few street lamps around the neighborhood, but it's fairly dark. A lot of houses, but a lot of people don't have lights. So it's pretty dark. So we go on our merry way as we normally do. And we walk to the left, go up the road. And Moxie just seems like she's a little off, and we're about a quarter of a mile up the road, and she decides she doesn't want to go that way anymore. So she turns around, which happens on occasion. And so we were all walking back, and I don't want to walk back to the house, but I'm just like, what is going on? Why does she not? She's normally very excited about a walk. So I'm trying to veer her down a side road because I don't want to get back to the house, because once we're back to the house, it's like the walk is over, and you know how dogs, they're in the moment. So I try to veer her down a side road, as we have many in my neighborhood, which is I'm so grateful. So we go down a side road, and we get, I don't know, maybe 100 feet down the road, and she's dragging again, and she kind of keeps looking over her shoulder. Now remember, it's dark, and my dog mom instinct immediately kicks in, because I'm looking down, I'm seeing my little ghosty-eyed dog with her little eyes staring up at me like, "Mom, don't you understand what's going on here?" And I immediately interpret that as something spooked her. She keeps looking over her shoulder, like over on the way back. And so I'm like, okay, maybe something spooked her. It is dark. Yes, we walk every day, but sometimes you hear things, and the neighbor dog we had just passed was barking pretty loudly, and it was all dark over there. So maybe she's got spooked. So I look down at her little puppy eyes, and the oxytocin starts kicking in. So I think, okay, you know what, baby girl, we're just gonna go home, and I'll feed you a little early. We'll just adjust. We're flexible. We're flexible. I'm gonna adjust the schedule. We'll feed you first. Normally I feed her after her walk. We'll feed you first, and then we'll go for a walk when it's light out, and you'll be fine. And we'll get our walk in, and it's great. So we hightail it, and she's very happy. Yes, let's go back home. Let's go back home. Keeps going down, and then this should have been my second clue, when she didn't stop on the driveway. Normally when we get into our yard, we go down the driveway, and because we have an electric fence, I have to constantly train to let her know that it's okay to cross the barrier when she's on a leash. So when we get inside the fence, I always give her a treat midway down the driveway, and she just wasn't having it. So I thought, God, she's really spooked. Yeah, so we get inside, I'm ready to adjust the schedule, be flexible, and take off her leash and her collar. She hightails it into the living room. So I go into the hallway, which looks into the living room, and I'm hanging up her leash on a hook, and I notice she's on her little dog bed, and there's something on her dog bed that she has just spit out of her mouth. It looks like a rock, looks like a little rock. So, it hits me. This is why she wanted to come back home. It wasn't because she was spooked or scared. It's because she fucking had something in her mouth. And I should have known this, because this is her MO. I have seen this many times. Sure enough, I went over, and of course, she put it back in her mouth. So then it's a thing, right? I could tell right before she put it back in her mouth that this was not a rock, in fact, but it was some sort of caterpillar-like thing. So I went and got my Playtex living gloves, and I pulled it out of her mouth, and it was a slug, a big fat slug that she somehow, with the speed of light, had picked up on our quarter-mile trek. And once she has something in her mouth, then she wants to go home and play with it. And I know this because this happens many times. It took me a few times to figure it out, but I noticed we would be on a walk, and if we were walking away from the house, all of a sudden, mid-road, she would just stop and kind of look up at me and like, I don't want to go this way anymore. And so we would turn and go the other way. And or if we were walking towards the house, suddenly she would start pulling very much. And after a few times, I kind of noticed, okay, what is this all about? And it was easy to detect in the summer because she would stop panting. Normally in the morning, it's fairly warm. It would be in the mid to upper 60s. It's very humid. She's a dog. She pants. That's how she cools off. I'm dripping sweat. She's panting. And the panting would stop. So that was my clue that something was going on. And sure enough, this happened many times. We had crab apples. We had um, rotten apples. We had acorns. We have bugs. We have dead voles or moles. All kinds of things that her telltale sign is she suddenly wants to go home. And she does the same thing with retrieving. If she picks up a stick that she really wants to chew on, then it's like the walk's over. I want to go home. So that should have been my clue. The walk's over. But it's never happened so soon, and it's been a while. So this is the lesson, right? The lesson is never take for granted that you're training with yourself or your dog, and this applies to children, husbands, spouses, or anybody else, coworkers, whatever. Never take for granted that the training is done and will never need to be redone, or you will never need to be reminded, because it's just simply not true. It's very true of dogs. You have to retrain your dogs. Even if your dog has gone through like intense training, you're going to have to reiterate that training. And the same is with humans. So I needed a little retraining today when Moxie fucking pulled one over on me and got me to come back home so she could eat her fucking slug. Yeah, and she was not spooked at all. I took her right back out, disposed of the slug, put her collar back on, and said, "Oh no, little girl, you are fool me once, fool me 6 or 7 times, but this is it. This is the last time." So we went out and finished our walk, and she was not spooked by anything at all. So there you go, folks. Your training for yourself and your dog is never ever 100% complete. You always have to retrain. And I had to retrain. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this mini MFB. I'm Beth Ann Campbell, and you can find full episodes of this lovely podcast, My Favorite Bitch, at bethancampbell.com/MFB. That's bethancampbell.com. And with an E, I made a poem. I made a poem and it rhymed. All right, folks, I hope you're having a great day. Take it easy. Go play fetch.